How far can a heart stretch before it breaks, and how much faith does it take to hold it together when everything seems lost? Amelia never thought she would have to find the answer to that question so early in her life. She was born in a narrow, aging house at the edge of a forgotten town, where cracked walls carried stories of struggle and the roof leaked during heavy rains. Yet inside that fragile home lived something stronger than stone, love that refused to die. Her father, Robert Hayes, was a night shift security guard who stood for 12 hours straight, rain or shine, protecting buildings that would never belong to him. Every morning he returned with tired eyes and sore legs, but when he saw Amelia waiting at the door, his exhaustion melted into a gentle smile. "As long as I can stand, you will never be alone," he used to say, placing his rough hand on her head. Her mother, Evelyn, washed clothes for wealthier families, her hands always smelling of soap and sacrifice. She taught Amelia not just how to cook or clean, but how to kneel in prayer when the world felt too heavy. "Faith doesn't erase pain," her mother would whisper at night. "It teaches you how to survive it." Amelia grew up understanding hunger, but she also understood gratitude. She knew what it meant to share a single loaf of bread and still thank God for abundance. She learned early that life was unfair, but she believed, because her parents believed, that God never wasted tears. School became her refuge. She studied with a quiet intensity, dreaming not of luxury, but of stability, of a day when her parents wouldn't have to work themselves into the ground. Her father watched her from the doorway every night, pride shining brighter than any reward he had ever received. "You are our miracle," he once told her, his voice trembling with hope. Those words stayed with her, anchoring her through every hardship. Then life shifted without warning. One cold evening, while Robert was on duty, he collapsed at his post. By the time help arrived, he was barely conscious. The hospital lights were harsh, and the silence in the waiting room felt louder than screams. The diagnosis came like a death sentence spoken too calmly: severe heart failure combined with an undetected infection. The doctor explained the treatment plan in measured tones, but Amelia heard only fragments. Expensive, long-term, uncertain. The man who had carried the weight of their family could barely lift his own hand. Evelyn tried to be strong, but at night Amelia heard her sobbing into her pillow, praying through tears she didn't want her daughter to see. Bills arrived faster than hope. Medicines emptied their savings. The small home that once felt warm now felt heavy with fear. Amelia began skipping meals without telling anyone. She sold her books, then her old phone, then anything that could be spared. Still, it wasn't enough. One evening, as rain beat against the windows, Amelia made a decision that felt like tearing her own heart out. She would leave, not because she wanted to, but because she had to. The city promised work, money, and a chance, however small, to save her father's life. Evelyn held her tightly, her tears soaking Amelia's shoulder. "Go," she said, her voice breaking. "God will go with you." The city was loud, unforgiving, and indifferent. Tall buildings blocked the sky, and people rushed past without seeing her. Amelia knocked on doors until her knuckles burned. At restaurants, offices, and stores, she heard the same words dressed in different tones. "We're not hiring." Some were kinder, others cruel. "You don't belong here," one manager snapped, looking at her worn shoes. Each rejection chipped away at her courage. At night, she slept in a small shared room, staring at the ceiling and asking God questions she was afraid to answer. "Are you still listening?" she whispered into the darkness. Yet every morning she rose again, smoothing her clothes and holding on to faith like a lifeline. Weeks passed, and despair grew heavier. Then, on a day when she was ready to give up, she walked into a modest office building. Inside, she met Michael Carter, a quiet man with tired eyes and a calm presence. He listened as Amelia spoke, her voice shaking. "I just need honest work," she said. "My father is dying." Michael didn't interrupt. He saw not weakness, but strength forged in suffering. Without asking for more, he offered her a job as an office assistant, with a salary higher than she expected. For Amelia, it felt like a miracle wrapped in ordinary words.
"She worked harder than anyone. She arrived early, left late, and never complained. Every paycheck went home. Every call with her mother carried both hope and fear." Then one night, the phone rang. Amelia's hands trembled as she answered. "Is the money helping?" she asked softly. Her mother paused. "My child," she said, "your father is worse. The doctors say we should prepare ourselves." The words shattered Amelia's strength. She fell to the floor, sobbing, feeling her faith slipping through her fingers. She didn't know Michael was nearby. He heard everything. And in that moment, everything changed. Michael stood frozen for a moment after Amelia collapsed, her quiet strength finally giving way to unbearable pain. He had seen many employees cry, complain, or give up, but never had he witnessed someone break so silently, so completely. He knelt beside her, unsure of what to say, knowing that words were powerless in the face of such grief. Amelia covered her face, her shoulders shaking as years of fear, sacrifice, and unanswered prayers poured out all at once. "I did everything right," she whispered through tears. "I believed. I worked. I prayed. Why is God still taking him from me?" Michael helped her to a chair and gave her time to breathe. He didn't offer empty comfort. Instead, he listened. That night, after everyone had left, he stayed behind, staring at the city lights through his office window. He hadn't planned on revealing anything, not yet. For years, he had kept his true identity hidden, choosing a simple life over recognition. But Amelia's pain stirred something deep within him. He remembered his own past, the nights he spent beside a hospital bed, begging doctors to save the woman who raised him. Back then, no one came to help. He had survived, but the scars never left. The next morning, Michael made a decision that would change everything. He called Amelia into his office. She walked in hesitantly, her eyes swollen from crying, her spirit heavy with dread. She expected sympathy, maybe time off. What she didn't expect was the truth. Michael closed the door and spoke calmly. "Amelia, I need you to listen carefully." He told her that he wasn't just an office manager. He was the founder of a private medical foundation that partnered with top hospitals, specializing in critical heart conditions. He had the resources, the influence, the ability to intervene. At first, Amelia thought she was hallucinating. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Why would you do this for me?" Michael met her gaze. "Because faith should never be punished," he said. "And because no one should lose a parent simply for being poor." Tears streamed down Amelia's face as hope dangerous, fragile hope slowly returned. Within hours, arrangements were made. Specialists were contacted. Her father was transferred to a better facility, the cost covered entirely. Back home, Evelyn received the call that would shake her to the core. "Your husband will receive immediate advanced treatment," the doctor said. "There is a chance." Evelyn dropped the phone and fell to her knees, crying out in gratitude. For the first time in months, the word chance sounded like a miracle. Amelia flew home that same night. When she entered the hospital room, she saw her father surrounded by machines, weaker than ever but alive. She held his hand, whispering prayers, reminding him of the promises he once made to her. The days that followed were a battle between life and death. There were setbacks, nights when doctors shook their heads, moments when Amelia felt hope slipping away again. But this time, she wasn't alone. Michael checked in constantly, never seeking praise, never demanding recognition. Slowly, signs of improvement appeared. A stronger heartbeat, a longer breath, a squeezed hand. Then one morning, Robert opened his eyes and spoke Amelia's name. That moment shattered every doubt she had ever carried. Weeks turned into months. Against all odds, Robert recovered enough to leave intensive care. Doctors called it remarkable. Amelia called it grace. When she finally introduced her parents to Michael, her father struggled to stand, tears in his eyes. "You didn't just save my life," he said. "You saved my daughter's faith." Michael smiled softly, knowing that some miracles were meant to remain quiet, but life had one more test waiting. Amelia returned to the city, her heart lighter, but her spirit more alert. She realized that love, when mixed with power, could become dangerous if misunderstood. Whispers began at work. People noticed Michael's attention toward her. Rumors grew. Accusations followed. Amelia found herself once again judged, this time not for being poor, but for being favored. The same city that once ignored her now watched her closely. One evening, Amelia stood alone on a rooftop, staring at the sky. "I know you saved him," she whispered. "But what comes next?" The wind carried no answer, only silence. And somewhere below, destiny was preparing its next move. The rumors did not arrive loudly. They crept in quietly, like poison slipping into clear water. At first, Amelia tried to ignore them. She told herself that people always talked, that truth didn't need defending. But soon, whispers turned into glances, and glances turned into cold silence. Conversation stopped when she entered a room. Emails went unanswered. Responsibilities she once handled were suddenly reassigned. It felt painfully familiar, another version of rejection. Dressed in cleaner clothes, one afternoon, Amelia was called into a meeting she hadn't been informed about. As she entered the conference room, she sensed tension in the air. Several senior staff members sat stiffly, files open in front of them. Michael was there too, but his expression was unusually serious. Before Amelia could speak, one of the executives cleared his throat. "We need to address concerns," he said. "There have been allegations of favoritism, abuse of authority, personal involvement affecting professional decisions." The words hit Amelia like a slap. Her heart pounded. "I never asked for anything," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I earned my position." Someone scoffed. Another added, "Your father's treatment wasn't cheap." The implication hung heavy in the room. Amelia felt her chest tighten. For a moment, fear threatened to overwhelm her. Then she remembered her mother's words, "Faith doesn't erase pain. It teaches you how to stand inside it." Michael finally spoke. "Enough," he said calmly. He didn't raise his voice, but the room fell silent. He took full responsibility for the medical support and made it clear that Amelia had never used influence or asked for favors. Still, the damage was done. The board demanded an internal investigation. To protect the institution's reputation, Amelia was placed on temporary leave. That night, Amelia sat alone in her small apartment, staring at the packed suitcase at her feet. The city lights outside no longer felt hopeful. She felt tired of proving her worth, tired of being misunderstood, tired of fighting battles she never chose. For the first time, she considered leaving everything behind. Maybe faith wasn't enough after all. Maybe some people were meant to suffer quietly. Her phone rang. It was her mother. "Your father walked today," Evelyn said softly. "Just a few steps, but he smiled like a child." Amelia broke down in tears. In that moment, she realized something profound. Miracles don't cancel storms. They give you strength to survive them. She unpacked her suitcase and knelt beside her bed. "If this is another test," she whispered, "then don't let me fail." Days later, Amelia received an unexpected request. The investigation committee wanted her testimony. She walked into the hearing room with steady steps, though her hand shook. She spoke the truth about her background, her struggles, her work. She refused to portray herself as a victim. Instead, she spoke about dignity. "I was helped because I was human, not because I was special," she said. "If compassion is a crime, then we should all be guilty." The room fell silent. Some avoided her eyes. Others looked moved. The investigation concluded weeks later. Amelia was cleared. Her job was reinstated. But something inside her had changed. She no longer sought approval. She understood now that faith sometimes means walking alone. Michael met her one evening after work. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "My actions put you in this position." Amelia shook her head. "No," she replied. "This showed me who I am." There was a pause. Then Michael spoke words he had held back for too long. He told her about his feelings not as a benefactor, not as a savior, but as a man who respected her strength. Amelia listened in silence. Love, she realized, was another test. A beautiful one, but still a test. "If this is real," she said softly, "it must survive the truth." Michael nodded. He understood. Far away, in a quiet hospital room, Robert watched the sunset through the window. He whispered a prayer of gratitude, unaware that his daughter was standing at the edge of a new destiny, one that would demand everything she had learned about faith, sacrifice, and courage, and the hardest choice of her life was yet to come. Amelia did not rush love. After everything she had endured, she understood that real faith was patient, and real love never demanded shortcuts. She returned to her work with renewed purpose, not to prove anything to the world, but to honor the journey that had shaped her. Slowly, trust rebuilt itself, not through words, but through consistency. Michael stepped back when needed, giving her space, allowing her strength to lead instead of his power. Months later, Amelia stood in a small community hall beside her parents. Her father was thinner, slower, but standing on his own feet. The doctors had called his recovery extraordinary. Amelia called it divine timing. That evening, she shared her story not as a victim, not as a miracle case, but as a witness. "There were moments I thought faith had abandoned me," she said softly. "But I learned something important. Faith isn't God giving you everything you want. It's God giving you the strength to walk through what you fear." In the audience, Michael listened quietly. He didn't see a woman he had helped. He saw a woman who had risen. After the event, he approached her not with promises, not with rescue, but with honesty. "I don't want to save you," he said. "I want to walk beside you if you'll allow it." Amelia looked at her parents, at her father's gentle smile, at her mother's tearful eyes. She finally understood. Love tested by fire is no longer fragile. She nodded. Not because life would be easy, but because faith had taught her courage. Years later, Amelia would help lead the same foundation that once saved her family, ensuring that compassion never depended on status. And every night, she would whisper the same prayer she learned as a child, grateful not just for the miracle that saved her father, but for the trials that shaped her soul. Because sometimes, God doesn't remove the storm. He teaches you how to walk through it and come out stronger. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories.